Hi, everybody. I'm Dave,
And I'm John.
and this is the Coffee and Capes podcast. And we are a pair of enthusiasts who enjoy drinking coffee and love talking about geek culture.
That's true. And today, as you can see,
We're together in the same place.
Yay!
We're
So
excited.
contrary to popular belief, we are not the same person.
Wasn't aware that was a belief, let alone a popular one, but okay. I don't think anyone would ever mistake me for you.
You never know.
Yeah,
This is true. You never know.
But yes, we're very excited because we're in the same place at the same time for the first time since this summer.
Yeah, since this summer, and the first time ever for the
Recording
show.
of this podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're super excited.
Yeah. And you know, I think it's important to say happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Happy holidays.
Mhm.
Yes, exactly. Whatever you're celebrating this time of year, we hope it's a good time and that you have a measure of peace and goodness and joy and happiness.
Yeah, and may you get all the amazing nerd things that you want. I just was cruising Instagram before we started recording. Apparently, they have a figurine of the Hydra Stomper
Oh,
out there that's available for sale somewhere. The price tag was like $80. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but hey, if you got the
Exciting.
shelf space and an extra $80, if you don't have the shelf space but you have an extra $80, my address is just kidding, everybody. However,
This podcast, just for the record, is not sponsored by the Hydro Stomper.
it is not sponsored by the Hydro Stomper, but we do love coffee.
We do love coffee.
And while we're not sponsored by Starbucks, we are both drinking the same coffee today.
We're enjoying some Starbucks coffee today.
Yeah.
Yes.
So today we're drinking some Pike's Place roast. Is that what it's called? Pike's, or is it just
Sure.
Pike's roast? I don't know. Pike's Place roast, guys. It's the thing that they always serve at Starbucks. Apparently, you can't get Christmas blend dark after 11.
Really?
I didn't know that was a thing. You can't get
That's
dark
so
roast.
bizarre.
They'll do a pour over,
Okay.
but when you're trying to get in and out, you don't want to wait for a
No.
pour over.
No, there's no
No.
way.
And I just want to throw a little bit of holiday etiquette out there, guys. If you're buying coffee for an entire house full of relatives that have come to visit you, don't do it in the drive-thru.
Oh gosh.
Just don't do it in the drive-thru. You hold up like everybody else. Go inside. Stay warm. Be comfortable. Right? Let the people who are ordering like one or two coffees use the drive-thru. Just saying. There was a massive line at the Starbucks.
Clearly, I could tell.
Yeah, massive line at the Starbucks. This has gone too far, but even though it's not in and we don't have them in our coffee today, and they don't officially sponsor us, as always, we want to give a shout out to Nicole and Sarah from Ladybird Provisions.
We do enjoy us some Ladybird Provisions coffee bombs.
We do. They're
tasty.
They are tasty, and you can.
And they're helpful.
They're super helpful.
Yeah,
they're good for you. They do not put hair on your chest, even if
or your head. I can attest if you're watching this.
Or your head. Yeah, mine is falling out over the years.
But they're tasty.
They are tasty. They're super tasty, and they're really nice people. Nicole and Sarah are very nice people. Support nice people as they try to, survive and make it through by creating something that's actually tasty and good for us. Now that we've gone through that, I think we're both pretty excited about what we're here to talk about.
So excited to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. As you know, if you've been listening to any of our previous review podcasts, that we do not have the ability to keep from spoiling things. We need to talk about everything. So please, if you have not seen the movie and you don't want to have it spoiled, press pause now.
Yeah, because we have no ability to hold back,
nor interest in holding back.
Yeah,
frankly.
we don't really want to. So if you're worried about spoilers and you haven't been able to get in to see it yet because you live in one of those areas where like tickets are sold out forever, just stop listening now. Come back and the episode will be waiting for you.
Exactly. We will wait here for you.
Yeah. And with that, I think we should just dive right in.
Oh my gosh, let's go.
So, initial first impressions. We both, in all fairness, you saw it with Josh, your son?
With the whole family, actually. Yeah.
The whole family.
Yeah. All
Oh,
four of us saw it.
fantastic.
Yeah,
And you guys saw it on Sunday,
we did.
right?
Yes.
I managed to get in to see it on Saturday, the day before. It was very hard not to say something. I also happened to be seeing it, as I mentioned, at the same time, just a couple states away from my daughter Delilah, who
Nice.
also is an enthusiast of things like Harry Potter, comic books, those kinds of things. So it was cool. Like, it was kind of a family affair. So
Yeah.
but Dave, initial first reactions.
I loved this movie. I feel like they got so much right, and it was so well done. And multiple times, like, just tearing my heart out and throwing it on the floor and stomping on it in that good way, right? Just like grabbed the emotions and did not let go. Oh my gosh. And if you've listened to one of our previous episodes, the one about famous franchises, different faces, we've talked about the three main actors who plays live action Spider-Man.
Right.
And you can listen to that for our full take on those three guys. But oh my gosh, was it so much fun to have all three of them in this movie? Way more than I expected. Way more than I expected.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I whether you believed what was coming or not, whether you saw the hype and you were like, no, Toby and Andrew aren't going to be in it, or you were like, oh, Toby and Andrew are totally going to be in it. No matter which side of the fence like you fell on, I think you were still surprised, excited, happy, and elated to see all of them occupying that same space. It was probably probably the second most ambitious thing that we've seen like the Marvel Cinematic Universe do yet. The first one, I think, is the first Avengers movie. Right?
Okay.
The first like time they ever brought all like characters from standalone movies together.
Yeah.
I think this had to be, in my mind, the second most ambitious move they did, because they're reviving characters that came before.
Yeah.
Right. So like, it was interesting to see them seamlessly, in my opinion, mesh that all together.
Yeah. And people were excited. I don't know about in your theater, but there was a lot of reaction by the folks in the theater. Like when Andrew Garfield Spider-Man steps out of that portal and takes his mask off and it's Andrew Garfield, people legit clapped. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know there was that kind of love for Garfield, and I'm glad there was, because he's, as we've said in that previous episode, we think he's a terrific Spider-Man.
Yeah. And you know what? He continued to reinforce that idea. It was, first of all, I love the way that they did it with Ned doing the thing, and he's like, show me Peter Parker Spider-Man, and it opened up, and I wasn't sure who that, like, I was like, oh, it's Spider-Man, but could be Tom Holland, because it was nighttime.
Right.
He had run off, and then he's doing the weird like, looking, who is this? And then he steps through, and it's Andrew Garfield, and the theater went nuts. Yeah, the theater went nuts. I went nuts.
Yeah.
And as always, as we've kind of come to expect, there's like the moment of humor that's attached to it when they make him like,
no, I think that's enough.
Yeah.
No, that's not enough.
And then
because you go get the spider web in the corner.
Yes, I was just gonna say.
I mean, what a great touch.
The grandma who's like, while you're up there, can you get the spider web in the corner?
He's like, yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah, totally great. And then they try it again, and there was a heightened sense of anticipation, because you kind of knew who had to be showing up next.
Right.
And
it still didn't disappoint.
No, not at all. People lost their minds, lost their minds to see Tobey Maguire step through, especially what looked like an elder statesman version of, and we talked about this before the podcast, an elder statesman version of Peter Parker.
Yeah, that he obviously has been through. He's been through some things.
Yeah.
And, I suppose, I would guess at some point in the production, somebody had a meeting and brought up the idea, well, we could de-age him with some CGI stuff and make him look like, and
so glad they didn't.
So glad they did not. Like, that really worked to have him be the, well, instead of kind of joked, like, we need an old man Peter Parker comic.
Yeah, Marvel. you've done Old Man Hawkeye and Old Man Logan and Old Not Man Widow,
Old man Star-Lord or something.
Old Man Star-Lord, yeah,
Peter Quill. Old man
Peter Quill, yeah, Old Man Peter Quill. Can we get an Old Man Peter Parker?
That'd be fun.
That'd be great. But we got to see Tobey Maguire, I think, in a very age appropriate like role.
Mm-hmm.
And you had mentioned, well, shared the bit about the review you saw that talked about the reaction.
Sure. That well, we're used to, you mean the way the two characters embody the character different, they're the two actors embody the character differently. Yeah. So one of the reviews here in the Tribune, Michael Phillips is the Chicago Tribune reviewer, and he said, you know, when the action gets real and they treat it, the brutality and the mayhem, as real, he wrote, you can expect Tom Holland to have the appropriate amount of energy that he brings to that scene. And he wrote that Andrew Garfield, you can expect to give about 172% to those scenes, which tracks with what we had said previously. And Tobey Maguire brings about 60%.
Right.
So that there is a difference in the way they, all three of them, embody the character.
Yeah.
Which there should be.
Yeah. I think that, you know, so there were certain things that definitely got kind of reinforced for me during that time. One, I thought, and we talked about this, the 60% reaction from Tobey Maguire makes sense because he's the elder, like he's clearly the oldest of the three.
Yeah.
He's the more experienced of the three. He's seen a lot. He's done a lot.
He's been stabbed a lot, apparently.
Stabbed a lot. We've learned later in the movie. Yeah. And so his reaction is what you would expect from someone who's kind of been through it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to get super excited about this. We're just going to kind of do the thing.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield, right. A lot more, I guess, enthusiastic. However, that tracks with like how we've seen his Spider-Man before, right?
Yes.
We've talked about this. His Spider-Man was truly epic. Like the way that he approached Spider-Man, his approach of Peter Parker was not as great as we liked, right? But he did a great job as Spider-Man. And Tom Holland is just, there's a sweetness and kindness and I don't know,
kind of some innocence.
Yeah, there you go. Some innocence to his character. And man, the three of them on screen together were fantastic.
So good, so fun.
The conversation.
Yes. Like, oh well, I thought I was Peter 2. No, I thought you were Peter 1. I thought, you know, the whole like, we're talking to each other, how do we distinguish who we're talking to?
The moment between Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire when they're talking, and Andrew Garfield is talking about how he didn't feel great at times.
Yeah.
Right. And he's very like heartfelt. And he's like, I just like, you know, I feel like I'm missing it. And Tobey Maguire's like, you're amazing though. Like you really are.
Yeah.
Amazing. Like drove it home like more and more. And I thought, you know, this is great. Like the way to bring that humor to. Now we're already at the like close to the end of the movie.
We don't operate in a linear fashion.
No, we're not going to go from like credits to credits. We're going to go from like end to middle to start. But let's talk about the other somewhat anticipated and thought might happen cameo.
Oh my gosh.
That
I have to tell you, I legit embarrassed my daughter who was sitting next to me because when they pan to the scene after, you know, with Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock in the kitchen talking to them, I legit cried out and went, "Oh!"
Yeah.
And my daughter was mortified because unlike other spots in the movie when people like clapping at the reveals, I was the only one that had an audible reaction that we could tell.
Awesome.
In the movie theater.
That's fantastic.
I was so excited that he was actually in it. So I know there'd been some stuff online, but as we have talked about before, perhaps I do my best to avoid trailers. Now we watched the trailer. I literally watched the trailer,
on here
But when it comes when these movies are released, because I wasn't seeing it for several days until after it came out,
Yeah.
I was off of social media mostly, or if I did accidentally see something that was going to be about Spider-Man, I quickly scroll past. So I had not if it had been confirmed that Charlie Cox was playing Matt Murdock in the movie, I had not seen that. I was hoping it was true. I know there'd been a rumor, but oh my gosh, was I so excited for that part.
I went and saw it with my buddy Bobby, and I think there were a handful of us in the theater that had a reaction to that moment of like, yes, thank you. Like, we're gonna see more Matt Murdock as Daredevil, and now there's he's supposed to have a bigger role in She-Hulk, it sounds like, and some other upcoming stuff that he'll have a big part in.
That makes me so excited.
And I'm so excited. Like, congratulations, Charlie Cox. Like well deserved. But yeah, in the moment where they throw the brick through the window and he catches it,
yeah.
And Peter Parker's like, how did you do that? He's like, I'm a really good lawyer. Yeah.
So funny.
That was like perfect. The only thing that I was like, oh, are we gonna see him in costume at some point? No. And I'm glad now that they didn't try to like
bring that in,
shove that in there, because it would have detracted from all the other stuff. And we got so much in this movie.
Yeah. I honestly, just to stay with that scene for a second, I definitely want to see this movie again. And I'm going to have to pay better attention to that scene, because I'm not even quite sure what the dialogue was there exactly. Because I had my reaction, and then my daughter's next to me going like, shut up, Dad. And my wife is like, why are you so excited? Who is that? Like, what's the big deal?
That's awesome.
So on either side of me, like
no, why are you spazzing out?
Right. Why
are you not?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
How are you not spazzing out? Come on.
It's Daredevil. Who's that?
Oh,
I don't know.
It was a really good scene, actually. Like, where like they make him, he kind of starts to inform Happy that Happy could be prosecuted, and Happy's like, what? And they start stumbling all over himself. Jon Favreau, by the way, should be given way more credit, I think, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and even in like Star Wars now, with having helmed the Mandalorian, at least the first season. Creatively, he gets it. Like, in my opinion, right? He just gets that universe. He gets the way that it goes, and I've always been a fan of his. He's done some really great work over the years and other stuff, but
Vegas, baby. Vegas.
Yes, thank you. Classic. If you don't know that reference, it's okay. Go see a movie, go rent a movie called Swingers. It probably defined, I don't know, like how young men acted in their 20s for a while in
those of us that were in our 20s in the 90s.
In the mid 90s. And Jon Favreau directed and wrote that and starred in it, I believe, like all the way across the board. But he's very talented, man, and just really does a good job. But
before we leave that scene a little, just to say, part of what makes me so excited to have Charlie Cox and Daredevil in, that means at least the possibility, if not hopefully the probability, of all of those street level characters, of all the Marvel Netflix shows. It brings that whole world into the possibility of the MCU.
Well, and we've now, despite the fact that I haven't seen the last episode of Hawkeye, right? We saw it teased at the end of episode 5 with the outline of Wilson Fisk, and Dave was nice enough to confirm my question, even though I haven't seen it. Did we get Vincent D'Onofrio back as Wilson Fisk as Kingpin? And so to that point, like now it opens up a whole new thing, because there is this. So if you follow the comics, and you do, and I do, and I'm sure a lot of listeners do, there is a point. Wilson Fisk has not only that strong adversarial relationship with Daredevil, but there were times Wilson Fisk had that strong adversarial relationship with Spider-Man.
Correct.
Having gone after Aunt May and Mary Jane, and resulting in that confrontation where Spider-Man goes to the prison and beats Wilson Fisk up. It's great series of comics, great storytelling.
And Spidey and Daredevil have often teamed up and have helped each other out and have been friends or friendly. So there's a lot there. Or,
so much opportunity.
Like, well, what's next? What are they doing? What are they setting up? Well, if you bring that in, There's a whole version of like the new Avengers back in the day where Luke Cage is the leader of
I'll
a,
totally
of a
take that
team of
one.
Avengers.
You had Luke Cage, you had Spider-Man,
Yeah.
you had Wolverine,
Yes.
you had Jessica Jones, you had Spider-Woman was part of it as well. I don't remember her name, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, you had an entire
Jessica
team.
Drew.
Jessica Drew, thank you. Yeah, it was another
Yeah.
Jessica. Yeah, so it's just like a wide. Now there's so much opened
Right.
up, so much
Right, right, right.
possibility.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
That's why I squealed.
it's totally
it's
like
just-
legit. Right? I think it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah.
So moving on past the
Yeah.
Charlie Cox, because
Yes.
there's so much in this movie, and we have unlimited time, but still limited. Let's talk about the villains,
Okay.
because they brought so many from multiple movies. We got to see Alfred Molina come back as Doc Ock. Always like that was probably one of the most exciting things that I was like hyped for, and it did not disappoint.
Right.
Alfred Molina's ability to portray Doc Ock in a way that was just 100% aligned with like the comic books has not gone away, in my opinion. I think he just like
You could almost say he's superior.
yes, he's superior. He's the superior. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's cool. If you do know, you got it, and you're laughing.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know. But but in all seriousness, like his portrayal, and it was very interesting to see how their initial reaction to Tom Holland was.
Yeah. You're not Peter.
Yeah.
What are you?
You're not Peter. And then the nanotechnology that
Yeah. Did you know that his arms could grab a portion of the suit? That was unexpected.
Well, the nanotechnology left Peter's suit and took over the arms, and then gave Peter like
that was so fun as Peter's just like playing with it like a kid with a new toy. Well, it's like, oh, this is fun.
Because the little controller on his wrist like pops up, and it's like, would you like to pair a new device? I was like, yes. Wait a second, Doc Ock's like got Bluetooth pairable arms. This would have been a whole different ballgame. But yeah, watching Peter like dangle his arms, and I think it was almost poking fun at the fact that the original time they brought Doc Ock in, everything was puppeteered.
Okay.
So maybe I could be just reading too much into that.
I like it.
Totally
reading too much into things is one of the definitions of geek culture. I think.
I think so too. So what were your thoughts on Alfred Molina?
He sucks. No, obviously he's so good. He's so good. I don't know what else there is to say. Like I mean, right. Yeah, exactly. He's probably the most well-defined of the villains. Has perhaps the most interesting character arc or story. You kind of get multiple sides from him, as opposed, well, that's not entirely true. You get that from the other ones too.
Yeah, but he has that loss, that heavy loss with losing his wife. And, the fusion and everything else. Like he has almost, and we've talked about the hero's arc and the grief aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
He is so close to having a hero's arc, but the chip short circuits, right?
Yeah.
And we saw towards the end what happened, like how he acts when they repair the chip.
Yeah, and he's in control.
And he was just such a different human being, like
right,
so soft and so caring, and starts referring to Peter, my boy, and that was really cool to see. Actually just kind of made me feel warm to talk about, because you felt, at least I did in Spider-Man 2, when that happened to him, I never felt like this guy is just a pure villain.
Right.
I always felt like he was just this victim of this horrible circumstance that he brought on to himself, but not with the result that happened. That wasn't his intention, and it was very sad.
Well, we've talked about that before too, that a complicated villain or a conflicted villain is a much more interesting villain.
Yeah.
Than just like a pure evil.
Yeah.
And they all kind of have that.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie Foxx's Electro, I liked him. He was the most, to me, like the most one-dimensional in purpose. Like he didn't want to give up his power.
Yeah.
He sensed all this power, and you
Yeah.
could see it in his face. He's like,
Right.
I don't want to give this up.
Right.
Why
Right.
do I want to give this up? Why do I want to go back to being comb over? And I liked how they teased him about it. They were
Yeah.
like, what was it? Kirk Connors, right? The lizard was like, you look very different. Like, didn't you have a comb over and like glasses? And stuff?
Yeah.
Or no, maybe it was Andrew Garfield who said that to him.
I don't remember.
I gotta watch it again anyway.
Yeah. Right.
But so Jamie Foxx, Hayden Church, right? Yeah, Sandman.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. They did him in pure CGI as Sand.
Right. I wonder. I don't even remember. Was that part of the story in Spider-Man 3 that he couldn't? He didn't revert back to human until they cured him. Like,
No,
that seemed like an interesting choice. Why wouldn't he just change back to human at some point?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because in the
Thomas Hayden Church.
Thank you. Hayden Christensen is, as we all know,
That's somebody else.
Yeah,
in a different franchise.
Different franchise
that we're not talking about right now, even if your shirt is referencing.
Yeah, even if the shirt references. By the way, this isn't bar as in going drinking. This is anyway.
Barbell. Anyway.
Barbell. Yeah. But Thomas Hayden Church, I really liked his Sandman in the third Spider-Man movie directed by Sam Raimi. Despite its many flaws, I thought he did a really great job. But yes, he was able to cohese himself back together and look normal.
Yeah.
In this one, though, they kept him as CGI until the very end, when the super collider thing like healed him, and he was just back to being human.
Yeah. Maybe just as the way to visually make that distinction. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
possibly. Like because otherwise, if he'd been able to revert back to looking human, and he gets healed or cured, how would you tell the difference if you'd already seen him as?
Quick humor moment, because as they're like putting all the villains back in the little cages,
yeah,
and Ned goes up and he's like, "Is this some kind of tree villain or something?" And you're like, "No, man, it's just a tree. Just a tree.
Sometimes a tree is just a tree.
Sometimes a tree is just a tree." Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Kirk Connors, the lizard,
probably my least favorite of the five, and for sure the one they did the least with.
Yeah.
Like it was weird, the whole like, oh, you talk now? Like, I mean, it was kind of funny, but the dinosaur talks. Like what?
Right, the dinosaur talks. Yeah, he didn't have much in terms of I want to refer to it as like active screen time.
Yeah.
Right. He lots of like shots of him, but as far as active screen time, the most we saw of him, I felt like, was really at the end in the main battle. Right. Which,
well, and they captured him off screen, right? We didn't see that. You just all of a sudden you're back at the wizard's dungeon, which that cracks me up when people refer to him as the wizard.
The wizard,
like he's just there.
Yeah.
Right. Like that wasn't even part of the movie however he got captured.
Yeah, no, he was there already. They had already like managed to grab him because Strange had gone out and started capturing him, and
which is fine. Like it's fine they do it off screen. It's just,
but there wasn't a lot to him.
Right.
I've saved this one for last because he had such an expanded, like more of an active role than I really thought they were going to give him, and that's Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin,
or Green Elf if you prefer.
And there was this green elf guy flying around. I was like, oh, Santa Claus.
So jolly.
Not so jolly. But no, I'm a big Willem Dafoe fan.
Sure. I mean,
Willem Dafoe he can portray anything. If they were casting the shark in Jaws as a human, he'd kill it. Okay. That's an old Kevin Smith like reference, by the way, and you'd have to go watch a video. But what I really liked about the Goblin this time around, we got to see Willem Dafoe's acting range really on display with the like mild, kind of meek, sad, scared, like Norman Osborn, and then just on a dime went full blown like maniacal, like his face changed, his voice changed.
Right.
I liked the costume shift when they destroyed the helmet.
Yeah.
And he just wound up with like the kind of torn like hood. I really liked that a lot.
Isn't that more of a almost akin to like the Hobgoblin look
Uh-huh.
from the comics?
Yeah, almost more, which I thought was really a great job.
Yeah.
But yeah, a little bit more on that. And his strength level, like just kicking the snot out of Spider-Man, like throwing him around. I was like, ooh, this is what we could have had in the original Spider-Man if like all the effects and everything had been where they are now. I mean, that's clearly the difference, right?
Yeah, he was a compelling character. I think he's a compelling villain.
Yeah. And I'm glad that he got kind of the arc that he got.
Yeah.
Where now the thing that I don't know is in that arc, it seemed like he was genuinely like trying to be helpful, right?
Yeah.
But then
in the apartment, it kind of sounded like maybe it was an act the whole time.
Yeah, that's what I didn't get.
I think that's one of the questions of the movie. I think you're supposed to
not know.
Yeah. I think you got to decide, was he being real or was he just pretending the whole time?
Yeah, I don't know. It was, and I don't know the answer to that. I liked the way they brought them all in though.
Yeah. I think of the 5, he's clearly the most brutal.
Or
has the most brutality in him.
Yes, he's hands down physically the most chaotic, destructive, hurtful.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't know, like we talked about Jamie Foxx and being like just very power focused and oriented. Even that, like clearly he wasn't willing to stop being a villain. But even with that, like he didn't really turn his attention to others.
Right. And I don't even know if he was, Jamie Foxx's Electro wasn't necessarily seeking to be a villain as much as he just didn't want to give up the power.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think it's an open question what he was going to do with that power.
Yeah.
He just wanted the option.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. There was like
he's not necessarily, I'm going to hurt you. It's just, I'm going to keep you from taking this from me.
Right. And then there was that one point though where he's like, I liked you better the other way, and tries to short circuit like Alfred Molina's like chip again during the battle, and he doesn't get to.
That's true. True. So he had that.
He has it, but
villain tendency.
But Goblin's brutality, like I'm just here. I'm gonna hurt everything you care about.
Right.
I'm gonna go after everything you love. I'm just here to destroy you.
So on that point, this is a little bit of an aside, but in a relatively recent run of the Marvel comics, there's a set called Heroes Reborn, I think it was.
Oh yeah.
And they made the Squadron Supreme the Avengers of the world.
Yeah, I remember.
And the Squadron Supreme is kind of a Marvel
Justice
League.
Yeah.
Right. And in that world, Green Goblin plays a Joker role.
Yes.
Where he's like, kind of that, but that's what it made me think of watching William Dafoe play Green Goblin in this movie, where he's got that like, the laugh, he's got the maniacal laugh, but then the gist of what you were saying, just out to hurt you just because he can.
Yeah.
Kind of the set it on fire just to watch the world burn kind of thing.
But and so the with that being said though, if you go back in the history of like Green Goblin, it really is like Green Goblin's role within the Marvel universe has really been almost very Joker-esque, right?
Yeah.
He's just smarter, has different toys, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But
a little less murdery, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He killed Gwen Stacy, chucked her off of the bridge.
Yeah.
So we got some great villains. They did a great job of bringing that, and the introduction of like hold on before I go into that, because I don't want to forget this moment with Jamie Foxx and when Andrew Garfield takes his mask off and he seems bummed out. He's like, what? He's like, I don't know why. I just thought you were going to be black under that.
Right. He's like, you're from Brooklyn, or no, you're from Queens.
You're from Queens.
You help poor people.
Yeah.
There was something else he said.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to be black.
And then he says, well, with all these universities, there's got to be a black Spider-Man out there. I was like, Yes,
Yeah.
we're getting like, again, as we always do, we read way more into it. But that was a moment I thought, yes, we're getting Miles Morales in live action.
Right. And if you remember in the episode that we talked about Spider-Man,
Mhm.
we said we'll be disappointed if we don't get some kind of shot of live action Miles Morales. So I will say, and we didn't. So I will say I'm a touch disappointed in that, but at least we got it hinted at.
Yeah, I was happy with the hint at it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I was happy with it being hinted at because I thought the rest of the movie pulled together really well, and there was so much that they did right, and not really anything I can think of that they did wrong.
I did think at a moment and near the end there when Tobey Maguire's Peter was stabbed, like there's a chance that if he dies and somehow like Miles, like then maybe there's a connection there.
Well,
because the Miles Morales story is that the Peter Parker of his universe dies, right? And
right.
He's there for that.
Ultimate, because it's the Ultimate Spider-Man line. And in the Ultimate Spider-Man line, Peter and Goblin fight essentially to the death. And the Green Goblin kills Peter and Miles takes over. And then we get the multiverse introduction of like a new Peter Parker, and like the universes come together and all that jazz. So we very well could see that. I thought that and I think if they'd have tried to bring Miles into this, it would have been too much. So I thought it was a very clever way to set up the idea of Miles Morales down the line.
Yeah.
So I liked that.
I agree with the caveat that they actually have to do it at some point.
Yes, please. Marvel.
We need Miles Morales.
We need Miles Morales. Yeah. I'm cool with like however you do it. Just like, well, however. And I know we got the the animated version, but I want to see the live action,
which is fantastic. The animated version is fantastic.
So good. The next one's going to be even better. I wonder if this again going down rabbit holes, but I wonder if because of the way that they're doing the multiverse in live action, and then the way they've set up like the multiverse pulling people in from like all kinds of different craziness, right?
Yeah.
You had Noir Spider-Man, you had Spider Ham.
Yeah.
Like it seems like anything and everything. Could you imagine if all of a sudden like that's how like Miles crosses through a hole and shows up and he's like not
in a live action a live action universe?
Yeah.
Like he's an animated character in a live action universe.
Well, no, he like
he crosses over and becomes live action. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't know that's the right way to do it.
Oh, that would be pretty incredible.
However they do it, right? I don't really care. Just let's get live action Miles Morales. Now, there were some very like gut-wrenching moments in this movie.
So many.
And the one that like I literally like sat stunned for the entirety of the scene was the death of Aunt May.
Obviously. Yeah, for sure.
Like and you didn't, and I think it's because you didn't see it coming. Like you thought, like Goblin throws the bomb.
Yeah.
Peter can't catch it. There's the explosion, but May gets up.
Yeah.
Right. She gets up, and you're like, oh, thank God. And then they're having the conversation.
Yeah.
And Peter's like, it's not my problem. And May gives us with great power comes great responsibility. And at that moment, I was like, no.
Right.
And then you just see her
like, web up her. She's got to web up her cut. Web wherever she's bleeding from. Web it up already. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And then she falls.
Yeah. Like, swing her to the hospital. Do something. Why are you just standing there?
But man, she has. But again, like you think about how a kid would react, right? And he's still very much a kid. Like you're not going to be able to like think in a crisis moment of those kinds of things, especially when it's that.
And that's an important point. And I want to bring that up again with something else, but yeah, go ahead.
And it was just, I mean, for that moment when she said those words, I thought, oh no, we're losing Aunt May. Because those words are always accompanied by Uncle Ben's death.
Can we give him some props for actually getting the full quote this time?
Yes. Thank you. We waited 3 movies to get the full quote in this.
Yeah.
And we got it, and we got it done in, I think, a really meaningful way. And then if we jump towards like the end where everybody's on the school rooftop,
that one, that one really, I mean, obviously May gets me, but that one where I love that they just let that moment be
Mhm.
for, I don't know, however long, if it was 10 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever it was, but where they find Peter on the rooftop and MJ and Ned just hold him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. Like,
Yeah.
that moment, and that I loved that moment, and that they just let it sit
Yeah.
and not just be like a quick, hey, we're sorry. Like I had all the
Yeah.
feels that moment.
Yeah. And it, to your point, like it felt genuine.
Yes.
It felt like an appropriate amount of time for that to happen, despite the insanity and the craziness that's going on. And then to watch like Andrew Garfield talk about losing Gwen.
Yeah.
Right. And the emotion that came out of him, you're like, oh man, like that was solid, like solid moment. Right. And Toby, who you saw him tearing up, right? But it was that, again, as the elder statesman of the Spider-Man, it was that, sure, I'm sad that I lost Uncle Ben, but man, I see the pain that you're in.
Yeah.
Like that's what I thought his reaction was in that. I didn't think he was feeling the loss of Uncle Ben on its own, because we've both lost important people in our lives, and yeah, it still makes you sad, but that far removed, right?
He's feeling the empathy.
He's feeling the empathy,
Yeah,
right? Exactly. So. And when Peter's like, the last thing she told me was, with great power, and then they were like, comes great responsibility. He's like, how do you know that?
Right.
How do you know that? He's like, Uncle Ben, right? Uncle Ben. And
which I love that it was new in Tom Holland Peter's universe. That was the first time that he'd heard that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't like he'd heard it somewhere else.
Right.
To him, that was so new that when they were able to finish that, it tied them all together more.
Yes.
Because he knew that they had, because there was, Andrew Garfield was trying to connect with him, and he's like, no, you don't know. Like, you have no idea. And he starts saying, the last thing she told me was, with great power. And Tobey Maguire said, comes great responsibility.
There must also come
great responsibility.
There must also be. I'm not sure if it's come or be, but they added that there must also.
Yeah. And it was the exact way that she had said it.
Yeah.
So the connection was, and the confusion on Tom Holland's face of like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
And then Toby talks about Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
And Andrew talks about
Gwen Stacy.
Uncle Ben and Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
Because he lost.
Did he talk about Uncle Ben?
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay.
I don't know. We get another reason to go back and watch it again.
Right.
I thought he did, but he talks about like the loss of like those.
Yeah.
Just such a powerful moment on that roof. Powerful moment.
That was a terrific part of that whole movie.
And then we get a little bit of humor, right? Because Andrew Garfield looks at Toby, he's like, so are you just gonna swing around in like grandpa's sweater this whole time? And he
no, it was, well, no, later maybe. He's like, are you gonna, I think it was when they were in the lab. He's like, are you just gonna go looking like cool youth pastor?
Yes.
I'm like, yes.
Just in case anybody wonders what Dave does.
Right.
Yeah, are you just gonna go around looking like cool youth pastor this whole time? And he smiles and he pulls down his shirt. He's got the costume on underneath. Yeah, that was great. That's so good.
I loved that. That might have been the most unexpected line in the entire thing.
When I saw that line, I was like, Dave's gonna like that line. It's gonna be good. But yeah, so that was great. Now you had mentioned something about the youth.
So yes. So one of the complaints I've heard about this movie is from other critics. Like we're critics. No, from critics. We're not critics. We're just
enthusiasts.
Enthusiasts. Yes. Yeah. Which doesn't mean we can't be critical. It just, anyway.
Sure.
The whole setup is just dumb. Like the whole setup about how they, the plot device to get to the multiverse, where, your thought is, I'm gonna, I need to go back in time and undo this whole thing.
Yeah.
This is just dumb. And I mean, on some level, isn't everything on some level, everything's dumb. Everything's like,
dude, we talked
flux
about
capacitor is dumb.
Exactly.
The Millennium Falcon hype is dumb. Right.
Lightsabers, the Force, the list goes on.
Yeah.
Vulcan.
Yeah.
Nerve pinch.
Mind meld. Sorry. Anyway, so setting that aside,
Yeah.
if you're willing to enter the world of the story, and you're a 17-year-old kid, and your whole world
It's falling apart.
has fallen apart because there are helicopters surrounding you wherever you go, and everybody knows
Right.
who you are. He said it, you're the most famous person on the planet,
And still broke.
and still broke. Right. And the lives of your friends. Look, I work with teenagers. I have teenagers. Nothing's more important to teenagers than their friends.
Yeah.
And you see your two best friends, your girlfriend who you love, and your very best friend who you also love in that way. Like, their worlds are shattered.
Yeah.
And you love your aunt, and her world is shattered. Like,
Yeah.
everything's torn upside down.
Like,
Yeah.
everybody, like all these people that are important to you.
And you have access to a wizard. Why would you not go?
Sorcerer Supreme?
Yes. Yeah.
Although he's not Sorcerer Supreme.
Right. Yeah, that was a surprise.
That
right?
was shocking.
So I just think if you're willing to enter this world,
yeah,
it doesn't feel dumb to me. I think it's a reasonable reach for a teenager to have to be like, oh my gosh, you know what we could do? We could totally make a spell and make everybody forget.
Yeah.
And
it was a fair ask.
It's a fair ask. And
then as it's starting to have those little moments of like, wait, no, wait.
Yeah.
Wait, no, wait.
Yeah.
Wait, no, wait.
And then Strange is like, wait, you didn't call them? Did you see? Like, they bring in the adult perspective. Like, I don't know how you can be mad at that setup.
It was, and I really liked, first of all, I really like Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. I also really liked the way that he interacted with Peter and Ned and MJ. Like, it was very much the kids. Yeah. Like, don't touch anything, right? Don't do. And MJ's like, and you see it in the preview where she's like, I know some magic words. Right. And you're like, and you just see his face like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. Right. Fine. Just Scooby-Doo this shit.
Yeah, that's so funny. But I do like Doctor Strange in that sort of new Iron Man role of like mentor for Peter.
Yeah.
I think he's got the capacity for that.
Yeah. And he's got like the heart, the sarcasm.
Yeah.
Right. The like, I have a certain patience level for you, but I have an endless love.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, which is what we saw from Tony. Like, Tony
right.
loved Peter Parker, loved Spider-Man, but there were still moments he's like, oh,
this kid.
like stop with this kid.
Yeah.
Right. And Strange has definitely developed.
Yeah. Stop talking. We talked about that in the Spider-Man.
Stop talking. Like, right? Because he talks a lot. It's nonstop.
Yeah.
Endless. So I really liked the direction that relationship is headed.
Yeah. What's a Ned?
What's a Ned? And Strange trying to stop Peter from making things worse, right? Like, we have no idea. Like, we've just cracked the multiverse open and we have no idea. And seeing all this and then realizing at the end how strong Peter really is, like, as a human being, right? And as a hero, when he said, what if everybody just forgets Peter Parker?
Yeah.
Like, everybody, like, nobody knows. And Strange is like, that's everybody.
Yeah.
Like, everybody on the planet, no one will ever know you've existed. He's like, are you sure? He's like, it's the only way to fix it.
And that is the other gut-wrenching thing for me, the heartwarming part. Like, to me, there's little else that's as moving in a story, and especially in a movie, where a character willingly sacrifices something of themselves, like makes a significant sacrifice on behalf of other folks.
Yeah.
And that's what I see in that portion, that Peter says, yep, I'm going to sacrifice everything about me so that my friends and the people that I love are going to be okay.
Well, and it's not
and for the whole world, because
the whole world, not even like it wasn't just his friends. It wasn't just, it was like the entire planet.
Yeah.
And the moment that Stephen Strange saw that was, to me, the moment Stephen Strange saw in him the exact same thing Tony Stark did.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's good.
That
Yeah.
ability to be a hero on a level that like nobody else, like the only other person you really see with that depth of like heart and willingness to give up everything over and over and over again, to me, is like Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
Right. Captain America.
Right.
And in the comics, there have been so many occasions where, you know, Spider-Man annoys everybody around him. We've talked about this. He's the most annoying hero outside of Deadpool, to everybody. Like Deadpool is just on a different level. But his willingness to like lay down and never give up and like pick himself up with like broken arms and broken legs and lacerate and like whatever, and essentially, in the words of Captain America, look at somebody and say, I can do this all day, like, you know, despite just being a kid. And that is like at the core, you see it happen over and over and over again in the comic books, where somebody's like, how does this kid out hero and have more depth to them than any of these other guys? Right. Any of these other guys. And that's what, to me, that moment where Strange just pauses and really sees that aspect of Peter for the first time standing on top of the Statue of Liberty. Yeah. Like, just like, that was the moment. Like I have goosebumps now, because it was like,
and that's the kind of thing I think and I think we both mean when we say like this movie captured the essence of the character of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Like, and that's why I think this was so very well done.
I would agree. And you know, okay, before there's a couple more things, a couple more points I think we need to move on to, but let's talk about mid credits and end credit scenes. Right. First of all, sorry, why can't I think of his name now? Venom.
Eddie Brock,
but who's
the
oh
gosh,
Tom Hardy.
There you go.
Tom Holland, Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Too many Toms in the Spider-Verse.
For a second what which one was which scene.
So first of all, that scene was hilarious. He was like, we are drunk and going home. Like, Venom is hands down. There's a reason it's my, like, the live action Venom is my wife's favorite, because it's just hilarious. You know, we've talked about it in a prior episode, but that scene, right? And all of a sudden, like, he disappears in front of the bartender, but we have that little piece of the symbiote that we are suspending the moment of like, well, how come that little piece didn't disappear?
Right. I'll admit I was a little disappointed, like at the end of Venom, when all of a sudden he's in the MCU and I thought there was a chance he was going to be the sixth member of the Sinister Six, but he was going to show up, but now he's the
Lethal Protector.
And you thought Lethal Protector was a dumb name. The Hulk. What?
Right. I love that he's sitting there and Eddie's drunk. And he's there with Venom, and they're talking to the bartender. Who, by the way, if you haven't seen Ted Lasso, the bartender is from Ted Lasso. Anyway, another reason to go watch it. But they're having the conversation. He's like, so wait a second, I just want to get this straight. It's like, we've been talking about this for 2 hours now. And they're like, this is awesome. But I mean, the other part that tied that back was like, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man had never, like, no Avengers.
Right. But I fought alien goo.
Alien goo. That was good, right?
Yeah.
And so now we see the little piece that exists, which sets up Venom's introduction into the greater MCU.
Sure. And I just was a little disappointed that it ended up just being a full tease. That Eddie, Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock is going to be in this world, and then nope, he just gets zipped back to his previous universe.
But now we can get the I don't know, the non-hero version of Venom, without trying to retcon some weird unexplainable thing. So that was cool to me.
That's true.
I liked that. you know, they had to figure it out somehow. They did the best they could.
It was funny. It was entertaining.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that. And we are drunk.
Yeah.
And off he goes. And then the end, which really was
Just
a preview
yeah.
of Doctor
It was
Strange.
a trailer for Doctor Strange.
Trailer of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Thoughts?
Well, one, I'm excited to see that America Chavez will be in that.
Right?
Very cool.
Very cool.
Excited to explore more of Wanda's story.
Yeah, right.
And the hopefully friendship, maybe mentorship thing that happens between her and Strange.
Be curious to see how that goes down, right?
Yeah.
How about, because we've reviewed What If?
Yeah.
What about the evil Doctor Strange that shows up?
Pretty great.
Right?
Yes.
So are we going to get that Strange from that universe who, because we saw through the preview, like multiple situations where Strange is with I can't remember her name now, but the love of his life, like,
yes, right,
you know, there's a wedding,
yeah,
there's them together, and like there's all these different things,
yeah,
just like we saw in What If. Where now are we gonna get something like that where it's like all like there's that tortured version of Strange who goes through and is absorbing all this power to try and be able to save her?
Yeah, we're clearly getting an evil Doctor Strange. Whether it's that exact version remains to be seen, but
yeah,
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm excited to see where they go with that. I'm genuinely like excited to see where they go with that.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what else I was thinking about this earlier, about the back to the whole setup for why does Strange agree to do this spell with Peter? And don't you think part of it has to do with, because he's not the Sorcerer Supreme anymore, he kind of feels like he's got something to prove,
sure,
or a little bit of,
or he doesn't,
or he's like, it doesn't matter because I can
do whatever I want,
right?
Like I'm gonna do the thing. And where did the time stone go?
I don't know.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Or does Wong have it?
I don't know,
because he's Sorcerer Supreme now.
I don't know. So
or did it get put back? Like,
there's so many questions.
Endgame? I don't know.
So many questions now. And
can I say one thing? So, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Like one of the things about when Strange first appeared, what was going on with his hair? Like his hair color looked like extra dyed or weird or something.
I don't know. Maybe he dyed it.
I guess.
Maybe he's going like grayer than he thought.
Like, what? I don't understand.
Although, there's something to when he pushes Peter's spirit out of Peter's body, and Peter's like moving around, right?
And the body's still
moving.
Like, you shouldn't be able to do that.
You shouldn't be able to do that. How are you doing that? And then he pulls himself back into the body, and takes off.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Right.
Why did that happen? Like, what's going on there? Like, I mean, we're lucky enough that we're gonna get it sounds like 4 additional like Spider-Man movies.
Really?
Yeah.
4?
Yeah, they're already making like,
wow.
There's clearly gonna be a Venom Spider-Man like movie that comes out at some point. But yeah, they've got four more to come. So
well, that's exciting.
That is exciting. And my guess is that at some point we'll see Tom Holland give way to Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, I guess the final conversation to kind of wrap this up, and we've talked about a ton of different stuff, but there are a lot of people now wanting to see Amazing Spider-Man 3 made.
Yeah.
With Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
I'd be cool with that.
Sure.
His portrayal, I thought, was better in this than, because we didn't get angsty Peter Parker.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh.
We got the best part of Andrew Garfield. So as we've said before, I think an Amazing Spider-Man 3 with
when he couldn't save Gwen.
That was another heart-wrenching moment.
Yeah,
I can't believe all emotional.
We talked about it earlier, so I didn't bring it up. But yeah, that moment where MJ like falls, Tom Holland's Peter misses, and then Andrew Garfield like right after her.
Yeah,
and just like he did in Amazing Spider-Man 2, but this time he's able to save her, and that they're standing down there, and he's just crying. He can't, like, sobbing, crying, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I think so." Like that. Oh man.
Yeah, that was another powerful moment.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Oh, if we could get a different set of writers for that. I don't have any idea who directed Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, but or how all that came to be. If we could get, like what we've have recently, if we could get the sort of Sony and Marvel partnership for an Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. I think that you'd have to, right? And if you notice, like in this movie, the man who has to be credited with pulling off just this amazing string of movies, Kevin Feige.
Oh, yeah.
Right. He was a producer on this one.
Okay.
Executive producer. So he was clearly involved.
Yeah.
He and Sony have clearly, like the Sony exec group in charge of Spider-Man, have clearly found a way to work together to make sure that there is continuity, that the quality is there, because Sony clearly sees the value in the way that Marvel handled it, right? And the excitement that generated over Tom Holland's Peter Parker. And now there seems to be that same excitement for, like, there was that nostalgia that came through with Toby and Andrew.
Right.
Andrew is still, I think there's still a piece for that one. From a physical standpoint, when we look at the physicality of the three actors that have played Spider-Man, by the way, Andrew Garfield is still, to me, the one that embodies the physical aspect of Spider-Man's stature and size and everything else to me, because Tom Holland is a little on the shorter side,
right?
Right, but personality wise and energy wise and everything else, he's phenomenal.
Yes,
like there's no question in my mind that he's Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire was an incredible Peter Parker, and I think he revised that or resurrected that aspect of, not resurrected, he really showed that in this movie with the way that he portrayed, right?
Yeah, that
piece, especially like trying to crack his back. And Andrew Garfield's like, you want me to crack your back? He's like, yeah.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Like, better? Yeah. It was so good. So many great interactions like that.
Right.
But like Andrew Garfield, to me in the comics, Spider-Man was always a little bit taller.
Yeah.
Right. A little lanky and long, and
Garfield gets that.
Garfield gets
where
that.
The other two don't.
Yeah, and the other two don't.
Yeah.
So I'd be okay to see where he is. He's a good actor. He's, we were talking about the other stuff he's done.
So I mean, this is pretty obvious, but Spider-Man No Way Home, what do you give it in the Capes and Coffee and Capes ranking system of overwhelmed, whelmed, or underwhelmed?
Yeah. So that's right. We have our own ranking system. I think we give this extremely overwhelmed.
Yes.
Like just
100%.
Phenomenal job across the board. And I can't wait to see it again.
Yeah. I think this movie rockets to the upper echelon of Marvel movies.
Yeah. I we talked about it again before we sat down to record, but outside of ensemble movies, right? The Marvel ensemble movies like Infinity War, Endgame, and again, I would put Civil War into the ensemble movie realm. If we just look at it from a standalone character, right? I think this is my favorite. Easily like my favorite.
I think it's right up there for me. I think it's my top three have always been Captain America, Winter Soldier, Black Panther, and Thor Ragnarok. And if you've listened to this at all, I'm fully on Team Thor with that as a favorite character. But I gotta admit, I think this is a better movie than Ragnarok. Ragnarok's funnier and super entertaining.
Yeah.
But this movie I think is better than that, and I'll put it up there right with I've never really wanted to rank those three. Yeah. So I would put this up there as probably the third of those four, at least. So I think it's, again, like bracketing, kind of setting aside Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, you got to take those and kind of pull those out.
This is for sure the best Marvel movie since Endgame.
Oh yeah, easily.
Like, not close, really.
Yeah, no, I mean, and don't get me wrong, like Shang-Chi,
sure, yeah,
phenomenal,
good.
like phenomenal movie. Yes. Black Widow was good.
Enjoyable, and Ant-Man and the Wasp maybe less so, but
I like.
Or was that between?
That was in between. I like Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, but it's not as good as this.
No, not Not even close. Ant-Man and the Wasp came out before.
Before Endgame, right?
Yeah, because remember he got
He was
stuck in the quantum thing, and then
right.
showed
Sorry.
up. Yeah, but Paul Rudd as
He's
Ant-Man,
funny,
great.
right? Yeah.
And Evangeline Lilly is great. She's phenomenal. But yeah, I would say top 3 for me of like Marvel movies. This one takes the top spot, just barely for me. Honestly, over like Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier held the top spot for me for a really, really long time. This takes that spot from Winter Soldier, and
I think Winter Soldier came out in like 2014. Isn't that crazy?
Been around for a long time. Isn't that crazy that 2014 was a long time ago?
Right, that too.
And then in third place, I would actually, as much as I liked Black Panther, I would put Thor Ragnarok in there in third, just because we got kind of a little like World War Hulky feel. There were some fun tie-ins there, and I really enjoy the like kind of sad brotherly relationship that exists between like Thor and Loki, and you know, Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth do a great job together. But that's, you know, you're talking like on any given Sunday, Ragnarok and Black Panther can flip-flop positions because Chadwick Boseman, man, as Black Panther is phenomenal. I'll be curious to see what happens with the next one, right? Because there's all kinds of weirdness going on around that movie now.
There is,
which
that's
we're not
a podcast for another day.
Yeah, that is a podcast for another.
Well, guys, what did you and gals, what did you all think of Spider-Man No Way Home? Let us know. What did we miss? What were your favorite moments? What didn't you like? We didn't even get into any like things that kind of bothered us about it.
I can't think of anything that bothered me. I think I'm gonna have to watch it again with like not as fresh and excited eyes.
Yeah.
To be able to sit down and go, oh, well, okay. I think the only thing that comes close right now to like bothering me is why that one little blob of symbiote didn't get ported back with the rest. And I'm sure they'll explain that in some way, shape, or form. But that, for me, that was like the only thing I can think of now.
I think my glaring one would be, for a moment there, the police are all over Peter and MJ and Ned and May, and then all of a sudden, and then they just never show up again. Like that whole thing just completely disappears. And maybe that had something to do with the conversation with Matt Murdock that I was too busy geeking out to and then explaining to my seatmates. But that maybe that got explained there. But that was the part that was kind of like, wait, what happened? All of a sudden, that just doesn't matter now, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, we may find, you know, things don't bother us or do bother us. Go back and watch it again. But like Dave said, guys, what did you like? What didn't you like? You know, how would you rate it? Do you give it a overwhelmed, whelmed, or underwhelmed? And
you know what? I just realized we didn't do all our propers.
Oh,
if you're listening to us for like this whole hour and 20 minutes or whatever it is,
we've been going
like,
for a while.
Yeah,
this is the longest
you found us somehow. But what are all the other ways that you can connect with us, John?
Yep, you can send us an email at supers@coffee, the letter N, capes.com. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. And we're on iTunes, Spotify, podcasts, YouTube, anywhere, and Stitcher, anywhere that you can find podcasts. And a big thank you to everyone that has started listening, and for leaving us comments on social media. Some great stuff. I don't even know if I can pull up some of them actually, but we've had some great interactions. We really thank everybody for no, I can't pull them up right now because you have terrible phone service.
Yeah, it's true. In my basement. We're recording this in my basement. Like, how cliche is that?
So
this is not my mom's basement. It's my basement. That counts for something. Right?
I want to like shout out. We got some nice interactions from Barbell_Viking 1988 on Instagram. Thanks for giving us a listen there. And then let's see who else. There's lots, guys. There's lots. But I mean, thank you everybody in Texas, Kansas, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Florida, Ohio, you know, all over the country, Arizona, Utah, Hawaii, overseas. However you found us, like, thanks. Tell your friends. Like, we're sure you're happy.
We appreciate you listening.
Yeah.
We are definitely having a good time doing this. We hope you are too. If you've made it through this far, you definitely are enjoying it too, I think. So thanks for giving us a chance. And I guess until next time, true believers.
Bye, guys.
Bye.